My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. The golden age of America begins right now.
He was forged by a father's iron discipline and a military academic rigid code. Before the towers and the presidency, this is a story of a young rebellious boy who learned that aggression could be a strategy and his name could be a weapon. Donald Trump was born on June 14, 1946 in the Queens borough of New York, in the heart of a booming post-war of America. He was the fourth of 5 children of Fred Trump and Anne Mary McLeod Trump. His father Trump was already a real estate powerful developer, specialized in constructing middle-income housing for the New York working class. A relentless worker, meticulous to the point of obsession, Fred Trump embodied a harsh vision of success, discipline, money, and authority, and a weak distrust of any perceived weaknesses. His mother, Mary Ann, was a Scottish immigrant from the Isles of Lewis. More reserved and religious, she provided a touch of moral restraint in a household dominated by his father's figure. Donald Trump does grow in a structured, influenced, and competitive environment, where parental love often seemed conditional on performance and strength of character. Before going deeper, I invite you to scan the QR code or click the link on the description in order to have more content of this time. From his early age, Donald Trump distinguishes himself from his siblings with his explosive, rebellious, and provocative temperament. In the elementary school, he was known for his taste of indiscipline, confrontation, and the rejection of traditional authorities.
Biographer Michael D'Antonio says young Donald's thirst for attention often landed him in trouble at school.
He said to me that he was a wise guy. He's the fellow who threw an eraser and gave a teacher a black eye and would throw cake around a birthday party. So I can imagine him as being a little terror.
His father worried about his character of being uncontrollable. He was worried and decided to take a drastic decision. At the age of 13, Donald was sent in the military's New York School Academy, a private school where he learned about the military section.
So at age 13, Donald's parents shipped him upstate to the New York Military Academy.
Many kids, of course, are desperately homesick, can't wait to go home. He apparently loved military school. He liked the kind of out front, I think, competitiveness of it. There were so many different ways that you could excel and get medals and ribbons, cleanest rooms, shiniest shoes, all that kind of stuff.
Donald Trump thrived, rising in rank, and he was socially popular with men and women.
This choice marked a major turning point in his formation. There, Donald Trump was plunged in a deep hierarchy-ruled, permanent competitions.
He also gravitated towards sports, or rather, winning in sports, in soccer, wrestling, football, and baseball.
He excelled at baseball to the point where I think his coaches felt that he could become a professional baseball player.
Far from crushing him, this environment reinforced traits already present. A taste of command, the pursuit of symbolic dominance, and a will to stand out. He learned to transform aggression into leadership, arrogance into confidence, and confrontation into strategy. At the military, Donald Trump did not distinguish himself by academic excellence, but either through his presence, his ability to impose himself and to lead. Long before the businessman, the media star, and controversial president, it was in this New York childhood caught between paternal authority and military discipline that Donald's persona took shape. He was combative, decisive, obsessed with victory, and was allergic to defeat. After the military academy, Donald Trump was no longer a turbulent teenager, but a young man who was convinced of one thing: he was destined to dominate. He began his higher education at the Fordham University, a Jesuit institution in Bronx. He stayed for 2 years, leaving no particular mark. Fordham was for him a traditional step, almost an obligation. Ambitious and impatient, Trump aimed higher for more prestige. So in 1968, he managed to enter the Fordham University in Pennsylvania, one of the most renowned business schools in the United States. This detail will become a pillar of his personal story. Trump will often cite Wharton as a proof of his superior intelligence, even though his actual academic record was modest in his time there, where he marked more by pragmatic business learning than scholarship excellence. But the essential drama wasn't playing out in school hall. During his studies, Donald was already working under his father's shadow. Fred Trump ruled over a solid but discreet real estate empire. He concentrated in the outer part of boroughs in New York, especially in Brooklyn and the Queens. He built, managed, and rented. No glitter, no skyscraper, no luxury. Fred Trump believed in numbers, caution, and relationship between the administrations. Donald, however, observed, and he dreamed of something else. Where his father built for the middle class, Donald wanted to conquer Manhattan, the symbol of power, money, and visibility. Early on, a silent tension grew between the two visions: security versus risk, discretion versus spectacle. In the late 1960s, America was shaken by the Vietnam War. Donald Trump was of draft age, would never see the front lines. He received several detachments, official for medical reasons, including bone spur in his feet. This point, long controversial, will later fuel criticism about the patriotism and his opportunistic relationship with rule. But at that time, Donald focused on another battle, establishing himself in New York real estate. In 1971, at the age of 25, Donald officially took the helm of the family's company, which he renamed the Trump Organization. This name change was not trivial. It was no longer just about managing buildings, but about transforming a surname into a brand. This is where the Trump, the war, who comes to know, was born. A man obsessed with image, visibility, and grandeur. He actually left the outer borough to attack the symbolic heart of urban America, Manhattan, then in crisis, dirty debt ridden, but full of opportunity for those who dared.
Accompanied his father to sites all over New York's outer boroughs, where Fred Trump was building middle and low-income housing.
And I started off making little deals in Brooklyn and Queens with my father, and they seemed to work out.
And then with a loan from Dad, Donald Trump struck out on his own.
I think the rules that Fred Trump taught his son Donald began with, you must be a winner.
Donald Trump understood what very few entrepreneurs grasped at that time. Media power was as important as financial power. He courted journalists, exaggerated his success, minimalized his failure, and already presented himself as a deal-making genius. He learned to use conflict as leverage and provocation as free advertising, and audacity as a method. This strategy wasn't learned from books.
Robert had a set of blocks, and I had a set of blocks, and I asked Robert if I could have his blocks, and I built a beautiful, tall block building, and then I said I like it so much that I glued it together, and then Robert couldn't have his block. So I don't know, somehow that story is a story that a lot of people have asked me about. I don't know.
What do you think it says?
Well, it says, I think that just, even at a young age, I wasn't so much different than I am now. I don't know.
You had to get what you wanted, even if it was somebody else's blocks.
Well, that's the old story, isn't it? Huh?
But from childhood, attack, never back down, always project victory. Thus, by the late 1970s, Donald was not yet the global figure we know. But the blueprint was already there. The ambiguous relationship with his father, both a model and mentor to surpass.
A young man who built his first home at the age of 17. His name is Fred Trump. He's built a few other things since then. Chairman of the board of the Trump Organization. He knew, even as a youngster, that he wanted to work with his hands, so he took courses at night in plan reading and estimating and carpentry while going to high school and working in a local fruit store during the day. He was hired as a carpenter's helper for a building firm, and his skills quickly put him in demand, and within a short time, he had not one, not two, not three, but 4 jobs.
The fascination of symbolic power, the contempt for discretion, and above all, the deep-seated belief that the war belongs to those who dare to put themselves on stage. He was no longer just Fred Trump's hire. He was a man who wanted to stamp his name in a giant letter in the American skyland. In 1977, he married Ivana Zelníková, a former Czech model. This marriage aligned with his phrase of conquest. Ivana was heavily involved in his business. 3 children was born from the union: Donald Trump Jr., Ivana Trump, and Eric Trump. This family became a showcase of success, almost institutional, as just Trump was storming Manhattan. This family became a success, almost institutional, just as Trump was storming Manhattan. In the 1980s, Trump became more than a real estate developer. He transformed into a media phenomenon. Reagan's Americans celebrated money, ostentation, success, and apologetic winners. Trump perfectly embodied this zeitgeist. In 1983, the inauguration of Trump Tower, a luxury skyscraper in the heart of Manhattan, marked a decisive turning point. His name, displaced in a giant gold letter, became a signature. Thus, Trump understood that his real product wasn't just real estate, but the name Trump. Hotels, casinos in Atlantic City, luxury residence, private jets, clubs, golf courses, everything bore his name. He wasn't just selling buildings, he was selling a promise: wealth, prestige, domination. During these decades, Trump cultivated a symbiotic relationship with media. He gave endless interviews, provoked, exaggerated, and staged himself as a living symbol of the American dream.
Trump opened his 3rd casino in Atlantic City in April 1990.
Lasers, fireworks, and miles of neon lights provided the color as Trump opened the Taj Mahal Casino Hotel in Atlantic City.
He published The Art of the Deal in 1987, a book that propelled him to the rank of business guru, even though it was largely ghost-written.
Donald Trump talks all the time about his book, The Art of the Deal, what it meant to him, how many copies it sold, and its popularity, especially among business-themed books. Look down at the lower right-hand corner and you will see the name Tony Schwartz. Tony Schwartz, longtime journalist, was the ghostwriter for Art of the Deal, and in an explosive story in the New Yorker magazine, as told to Jane Mayer, the Art of the Deal author, you see Donald Trump's ghostwriter, tells all.
Trump became a national celebrity, a guest on TV showcases.
Rich, ruthless, and famous, my guest is a New York institution known for the buildings he's built and the wives he's divorced. You don't want to cross him, though, because he likes getting even, and he's made it a rule that no one pushes him around, ever.
Cited in magazine, omnipresent in collective imaginations. His fortune was hard to verify, but his image was immense. It was in this context that his media's relationship with Oprah Winfrey, already one of the most influential figures in American television, took place. Trump was invited several times on the Oprah Winfrey show in the late 1980s. They clicked. Oprah treated him as a fascinated character, the embodiment of the American ambition. In a now famous segment, Oprah even joked about the possibility of Trump one day entering politics. By the end of the 1980s, Donald Trump was a global celebrity. His name was at the top.
Trump's lead in the Republican race is now more commanding than ever. 1988, Oprah asks if he might run for president someday.
I would never want to rule it out totally because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country.
His name is symbol. his style a spectacle, but behind the spotlight, financial frailty were already beginning to crack down.
How did he lose all his money and then get it back again? Donald Trump, a very warm welcome to the program. You say you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. That sounds like a very destructive business philosophy, is it?
Well, I'm not sure that I've actually used those words, but generally you have to shake things up pretty much in order to do something of consequence. And I have shaken things up, and I've had the best business years of my life by far.
How rough is business in New York? We hear a lot about it's the toughest, the roughest, the most ruthless business in the world. Is it?
Well, I think that business in New York tends to be tougher maybe than other places, but I'm not so sure that's true. The real estate business in New York is an amazing business. It's a great business. And anytime you have a great business, you always have competition, and you always have, unfortunately, the smart and the tough people coming into it.
The man seemed invincible. It was equally during this period that personal friction occurred. His extramarital affair with Marion Maples burst into public view. In 1992, his marriage to Ivana ended in a high-publicized divorce, symbolizing the fall of a picture-perfect couple. This rupture coincided with the first financial crack in his empire. In 1993, Trump married Mapu Mala, a daughter of Tiffany Trump, who was born from this union. This marriage, more than fragile and media-driven than solid, ended 6 years later, amid differences in lifestyle and emotional distance. The meteoric rise was also complete. The fall, however, was quietly preparing. In the early 1990s, the image of Trump as an invincibility collapsed brutally. The aggressive expansion of the 80s, financed by massive debt, backfired with the economy slowed. Several of his Atlantic City casino, hotels, and real estate projects teetered in bricks. But several of his companies went through bankruptcy proceedings, revealing risk management and extreme dependence on credit. He lost control of key assets, saw his fortune shrink, and became, for the first time, subject of media mockery. This period marked a profound humiliation, but equally a lesson.
Well, the new book is entitled Surviving at the Top. There are many people who would say failing at the top.
I hope the general public understands how inherently dishonest the press in this country is.
As a member of the press, let me try to clear up some of the things which you say are untrue. You write in your book, "My bankers and I worked out a terrific deal that allows me to come out stronger than ever. I see the deal as a great victory, and eventually the rest of the world will too." Being on the verge of bankruptcy, being bailed out by the banks,
Well, you don't have to say on the
skating
verge
on
of
thin ice and almost drowning, that's a businessman to be admired.
You say on the verge of bankruptcy, Barbara, and you talk on the verge, and you listen to what people are saying.
I talk to your bankers.
Well, that's fine. And what do they say? I mean, you know, depending on which banker you're talking to,
Several.
What do they say? I'm the only one people write about. I mean, they don't write about other people.
You have a little more debt than most people. You're something like $3 billion in
I also
debt.
have a little more assets than most people.
Trump understood that he could survive failure if he controlled the public narrative. It was precisely this lesson that paves his way into politics.
Though that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined, I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing, this country would make one hell of a lot of money.
The following years, Trump rebuilt his name, not as a mere billionaire, but as an anti-establishment outsider. He multiplied his criticism against political elite, globalization, trade deals, and leaders he accused of having betrayed America. He tested the waters as the early 2000s, flirted with candidacy without going all the way.
All the Republican presidential candidates trooped on stage or made video appearances Monday night in New Hampshire. Trump was noticeably absent. He said it wasn't worth his time. Expect everything to change when Trump takes center stage at Thursday's Fox News debate in Cleveland.
Let's recall the fact that he lost his father by the 1990s, the one who forged him to become what he is today, a rock, a pillar. But the real trigger came after the media years of exposure when he did The Apprentice. The Apprentice who reinstalled him into the public mind as an authoritative and decisive boss.
Do you understand me? And I'm going to sue you if I have to. Do you understand me? Yes, I hung up. You didn't get disconnected. I hung up.
Performance could have been better.
Could have been better.
It could have been a hell of a lot better. But look, I'm not a guy who's going to run around blaming people.
That's
so I'm going
fine.
to take responsibility for that.
That's fine.
So if you want to fire me, go right ahead.
All right, Gene,
but I think
you're fired.
After playing an authoritative and decisive boss in The Apprentice TV show, where contestants competed in business challenges to win a job in his company, and where Trump delivered his famous "You're fired," he became a household name. The show made him immensely wealthy, tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars over 14 seasons, according to tax records and estimates. He forged his image as a strong leader before entering politics. In 2005, he married Melanie Knoss, a Slovenian model. The union marked a new phase, more control, more institutional. In 2006, their son, Baron Trump, was born. Melanie adopted a discreet posture, very different from those of his previous wives. The Apprentice gave him a national platform that helped him to take the next step, politics. He announced his candidacy for the Republican presidential nomination in 2016, positioning himself as an outsider critical to the traditional political system, denouncing globalization, uncontrolled immigration, and promising to make America great again.
We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So with American pride swelling in our hearts and American courage stirring in our souls, I say these words to you tonight. We will make America proud again.
With no prior political experience, he captured media's attention and popular support through his blunt style, promise of reforms, and a message many saw anti-elites.
We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Ohio. Thank you. Thank you very much.
He first won the Republican primaries, that is, it is to the internal party's election to choose the nominees. Then he won the general election of 2016 on the 8th of October against Hillary Clinton, becoming the 45th president of the United States of America.
It's going to be only America first. America first.
1 year ago, Donald Trump was inaugurated, becoming the 45th president of the United States. And the president's first year in office was a successful one.
During his first term, around 2017 to 2021, he implemented several campaign promises. A major tax cut, a more aggressive trade policy, efforts to strengthen the economy pre-pandemic, and a strict immigration policy measure that pleased his base but also sparked fierce criticism. On the international stage, he questioned traditional alliance and negotiated trade deal. However, several major criticisms marked his presidency and political career. The frequent use of controversial or factual incorrect statements, investigation and accusation pursued by special counsel, for example, related to Russian interference, Russia's Gate, controversies over his business dealing, and more specifically, and his repeated attempt to invalidate the 2020 election, which he lost from Joe Biden.
You can't turn 4 years of Donald Trump into an aberration, but 8 years he'll change the country in a way we can't tolerate.
Could you imagine if Sleepy Joe ever became president? This country would be a mess.
We need a president who can bring us together. unite the country.
First, we do Make America Great Again.
While falsely claiming it has been stolen.
And I leave and I go about
so
my business.
Did you take a test on the day of the debate, I guess is the bottom line?
I probably did, and I took a test the day before and the day before, and I was always in great shape, and I was in great shape for the debate, and it was only after the debate, like a period of time after the debate, that I said, that's interesting, and they took a test and it tested positive.
So you don't know if you took a test the day of the debate?
Possibly I did, possibly I didn't, but you know.
Depending on the continuation of the spread of the virus, we should be thinking about making it mandatory.
How could you enforce that?
Well, you couldn't. That's the problem. Just like you can't enforce measles. But you can say, you can go to every governor and get them all in a room, all 50 of them as president, and say, ask people to wear the mask.
And notably, in the assault of the Capitol on January 6, 2021 by some of his supporters. After his 2020 defeat, Trump remained a major political force. He announced a new candidacy for the 2024 presidential election and this time won the victory, becoming President of the United States again, the 47th president. This marked a rare return in American history. From 2024 onward, Donald returned to the White House, marked a deliberate political shift. More than in 2016, he governed as a president of rupture, conciliatory toward traditional institutions, heightened firmness and immigration, distrust internal alliance, and a question of role and certain federal agencies. For his supporters, he was correcting the system excess. For his opponent, he was pushing the logic of confrontation to an unprecedented level. What many Americans hold about him is, above all, his style of governance. A rhetoric seen as conflictual, tendency to govern by force, and an inability or refusal to unite beyond his base. Some also believe his position undermined democratic trust and deepened social, racial, and political fracture. Others, on the contrary, see him as a coherent president, faithful to his promises and willing to confront a system they view as corrupt. Since 2024, Donald Trump no longer seeks to convince everyone. He embraced a decisive form of power, embraced by a solid base. But we must note that this point of view is contested by a larger part of the American society. Now, tell me what you think about Donald Trump governance. Waiting for your comments in the comment section. See you soon.